Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Investor Financing Podcast. And on today's segment, it is questions and answers. If you go to investorfinancingpodcast.com/ask and put in a question, we will answer it on one of our weekly Q&A sessions. So we got Bill joining us, and Bill's going to go ahead and give us the first question.
All right. So one of the questions that came through the website was, what are the top things borrowers should know when looking to close quickly on fix and flip loans?
Sure. I'm dealing with a lot of this right now. And basically, guys, have your entity docs ready. If you're borrowing in the name of an LLC, corporation, limited partnership, general partnership, you need your entity documents, operating agreements, bylaws, articles of organization, your EIN number, the printout from the IRS, letter of good standing if it's an older entity. Have all this in a Dropbox ready to go. Time and time again, people form new entities and they don't have an operating agreement. They don't have bylaws. Guys, don't piecemeal this stuff in, because most of the lenders out there, although we start processing your loan, they don't put it through a final underwrite until they get the appraisal back and they have all these documents. So you have to have them. So be proactive and get this entity filed way in advance. You should have an entity ready to go, even if you don't have a property, if you want to buy in the name of a business. Now, in some states, for business purpose loans, you don't need an entity, but a lot of them do require, or a lot of the lenders do, to originate these business purpose loans. They require the loan be made to the business entity, and then anybody with 20% ownership or greater in that business entity need to be guarantors of the loan. So that's how these are all structured with all these national funds and most of the local mom and pop type hard money funds.
And another one that came in was, how are interest rates determined on these fix and flip loans?
All right, so interest rates are determined. There's a couple ways they're determined. Sometimes geographic locations make a big difference. So California is priced better than Pennsylvania and things like that. So depending on the risk of the state, it actually, they price in their algorithms based on the risk levels of the deal itself from a geographic location. Many lenders won't lend in more rural communities. Like I have a loan right now, somebody brought over, and it's got a population of 2,000. Many lenders need an MSA or a population of like 10,000 or greater. So knowing these things, because if it doesn't fit in the box, we have to find a lender that might not have the best pricing. The other thing is, on the same loan, the borrower is buying the house for $150,000 and needs $150,000 in rehab. We call that a lopsided flip, and those are harder to get done, especially if you don't have a lot of experience, meaning the purchase price is less than the rehab budget or equivalent to. Really, the cookie cutter type of flips means that you're buying, let's just use $100,000, and the construction or renovation budget is $40,000. So you want 40% of the purchase price or less in rehab for the easier, especially if you don't have a lot of experience. If you have a lot of experience, it's a lot easier to get these large construction budgets done. But I sometimes get calls for people who want to buy these houses for $30,000 and put 200 grand of work in, and they've never done a flip. It's very, very difficult. Nobody wants to do those type of loans unless you got a lot of experience. But usually you want the purchase price to be at least as is $100,000. The smaller deals are tricky to get funded. You want the property to be at least, if it's a single family home, it should be at least 700 square foot. Condos and multifamily, the units should be 500 square feet or larger. Smaller units on multifamily are very difficult to get funded. So these are things to be aware of. Now these are all price factors that go into the pricing. Loan to value. So how much are you putting down? Are you putting down 10% of the purchase price or 15 or 20%? The less risk the lender has, but the bigger down payment, the better pricing you're going to get. But most of us want to leverage and we want to get 90% of purchase and yada, yada, yada. So we factor in the loan to value and loan to after renovated value. And we factor in experience, credit score, location of the property. And then the other fee and rate variance is the term. We can do 12-month terms with interest-only payments. We can do 18 or 24 months. The longer the term, the rate goes up a little bit on the longer the term, because these lenders make higher yields from shorter loans, right? So the longer the loan, they're gonna bump up the rate slightly, but it might not be the worst thing to do is to do a little bit, especially if it's a big renovation project, to have a little bit of pad, because if your loan expires and you don't pay it in that 12-month time, it goes to the default interest. Default interest goes, your rate goes from, let's say, 9% to maybe 16 or 20%, depending on the lender. So knowing that is very important. So sometimes I'll take a longer loan, even though I'll probably pay it off within 12 months, just for the safety factor. Or if I'm doing a BRRRR, I get the property done. Sometimes I want to get a couple months of rent collection in before I refinance. So that's why I'm doing a longer terms. Or sometimes, like right now, I think rates will be lower. So if I can do a 2-year bridge loan, it gives me time to watch the rates. And as rates come down to refinance, I can do them now. Now, the difference on rates and points, I can do deals at a 0.5 point, but you're going to get a little bit higher interest rate. So it just depends. Usually 1 to 2 points is what a lot of these business purpose loans are at. There's no set fee structure. Every lender is different. All I can say is that when I price loans, I try to be extremely competitive in the way I price them out and give the borrowers different options. Like, hey, you can do this or this, right? So you also want to look out for junk fees, lender junk fees. Lenders have all different junk fees, doc fees, admin fees, lender service fees. So you want to know what all these fees are, so you can make a good you can compare apples to apples against a quote, because it's just not points, it's just not rate. There's other fees, there's term, there's all that goes into it. Every loan program is a little bit different. Some you make monthly interest only payments. Some lenders allow you to make all your payments at the end of the term. So but you're paying interest and they're setting up a reserve for those payments. So you want to know specifically what you're comparing your loans against. But at the end of the day, I feel like the competitive advantage I have, and over the years of doing this, is that I know what most every lender is doing, and I work with a lot of different lenders. And based on the location, the experience level of the borrower, that's how I figure out, okay, this loan's gonna be the best loan for this borrower, and this is how we do it with the best rate and the best fees.
You're listening to the Investor Financing Podcast. We'll be right back after this break.
Hi, this is Beau, host of the Investor Financing Podcast. I appreciate you checking out our channel. On this podcast, we talk about real estate, investing, financing, business lending, and acquiring and expanding your business. I'm sure you will find some videos here that will help you build your business empire. There's a lot to see. Take your time and make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks again.
Great. Along those lines, another question came in that said, how do I know I'm getting the best points, rates, and fees?
Sure. So, I mean, it's challenging. I mean, when I go and borrow money too, sometimes I'm wondering, am I getting the best deal? And I'm in the business, right? It's there's not that much transparency. But what I can say is you got to first start with the deal itself, and then your experience and your credit, because that's going to be a big factor. Most of these lenders want to win your business, right? That's their job, is to win your business. But there is big differences between some lenders cake in a lot of extra fees. They sell a higher rate because they're making back end premiums from the loan. So I would say you want to go with the best pricing you can find with 1 point cost or less. Usually, and this is for a deal that's like $250,000 loan amount or greater. That's where you're really going to compare. You're not really going to want to pay a lot of points on these short-term loans, because you're never going to recoup those points. Like when you're doing a 30-year loan and you buy down the rate, it makes sense because you can actually calculate when you're going to recoup those costs. But if you're going to hold this loan for 5 months, there's no point in paying 3 points. It's wasted money. You'd be better off taking slightly higher rate and only paying 1 point if you calculated. So less points is always advantageous on these fix and flip loans. You're making interest only loan payments and so forth. So that's what I would look for. I would call around, find people that you feel like they're being transparent and they're giving you good quotes. Compare 1 or 2 or 3 quotes, and then you're going to have an idea of what everything looks like. And then you go with whoever you feel like has the best rates, points, and customer service. It's not always about like the lowest, cheapest fees and points. It's about getting the deal done. Some lenders are taking 30 days to close a flip loan, where some can do it in 10 to 14. And if this is a time sensitive deal, you got to just understand the components of the deal. Some things need to get done quick, and there's some lenders that don't require full appraisals. Most lenders do. So that's what I do. I help you determine what's going to be the best deal for you.
Great. I think that's it for today.
All right, guys. If you enjoy these segments and you have questions, or you can just go to investorfinancingpodcast.com/ask, and we'll happy to dive into questions and answers. As soon as we get them, we'll come up in the next week with these questions. So keep them coming, and I'm going to keep putting these banner on so everybody knows where to go to ask these questions. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you on the next episode.